you have this vast background with you're a pharmacist, this PhD in science researcher, but when I got to meet you, you're also just a lover of life. You're this guy that embraces kind of all experiences and I kind of want to know how you got into this passion for something like supplements. What was it that brought you there?
So I'm coming from a tumor therapy or cancer research. So what we did there is like encapsulate mostly substances we want to bring into certain tissues, into direct places to have a local therapy for tumors or for cancer. And this is what makes me to get into introduced to liposomes, because liposomes are very good carrier system for this type of drugs or substances. So this is what we developed through my PhD, or what I recognize and were introduced by a professor during my PhD. And then we thought a little bit of it, what we could do with this highly developed technology, what we are using in pharmaceutical compounds normally, to use them also for us, I would say even normal people, for everybody nearly. Yeah, so this is where like the connection is coming from. So now we are just applying liposomes in a certain, I believe, most advanced way, because we thought over many things, how we could introduce liposomes into supplements, how to use them, what makes them so good, and how to address and to interact with our the physiological of our intestine and our whole body. So we wanted to use what is there, not like make crazy rocket science out of it. Just use what our body and nature gave us to make this thing happen.
Yeah, I find it really interesting how you're taking something that's already available out there. People have known of liposomes for a very long time. I do think it's quite marketable right now, and I'll go into that in a second and ask your opinion on that. But I did found it really intriguing how you're even combining it in different ways to improve the bioavailability, but also enhance it with things like lights and lasers, which we'll go into shortly as well. But getting back to this subject, like what are liposomes for the people that may not know, and why are they so popular right now?
So in a very simple way, it's a small fat drop. And fat drops and fat itself encapsulates fat lovely substances. So for our body, fat lovely substances, which are not water soluble, are normally not available because they are not dissolved. So our body is doing the same thing itself by bile salts, by bile acids, for example, in our stomach. And then they are released in the intestine, and then they are taken up because they are dissolved. So what we are doing now is like liposomes in a very technological advanced form, to make this thing happen and to support our body and our stomach to make the substances dissoluble and available for our body. So in a very simple way, it's like milk is a kind of a thing like an emulsion. So it's also like a fat droplets in a water compound, which make the substances which are fat lovely dissoluble. So milk is maybe a very easy example for liposomal formulations.
And it's basically, as I understand it, a great carrier of things into the cell, into the body. So you even look at something like phospholipid therapy, what they call the Patricia Cain protocol, which is basically using these different types of lipids, fats, to bring elements into and break through the cell membrane and enhance, again, bioavailability. Now, a lot of what people don't know is that when they swallow something like a supplement, very little actually gets absorbed. Is that correct?
Yeah, mostly. It depends what substances you swallow and what you're taking. But in the end of the day, it's the intestine what is taking the substances up. So normally through the stomach, nothing is taken up. Yeah. So the most substances are taken up by the intestine. So and it's the first part of the intestine which takes it up. So for water soluble substances, maybe sometimes we have like for vitamin C transporters directly. So our body is like recognizing the substance and taking it up through transporters. So we have a certain concentration up then in your bloodstream. For fat lovely substances, we don't have any transporters. So what we have to use is this dissolving through oils or something like this. And then what we are trying is to attract the biggest part of the intestine, because it's built up to have a very big surface area. So the surface area, the more surface area you cover, the better the uptake will be, because the intestine has the possibility to take it up, in the bigger amount through this big surface area. And this is what liposomes are also interacting with, because liposomes are like very small structured vehicles and transporters. I measured them, for example, for our formulations in the university. They are around 100 to 600 nanometers. This is also the best size for being taken up in the intestine. And the other effect is that you increase the surface area by reducing the size of the fat droplets for uptake in a crazy big amount. So the higher, the smaller the substances, I would say even, or you can just take a powder, which you then just like make smaller, the particles make smaller, the surface area becomes even more bigger. So the bigger the surface area, the better the uptake through the intestine. And this is like what we are creating only there when we take only the intestine as one part. But the other thing is also what a supplement can do that good is when you swallow a capsule. You swallow it, it gets released. Maybe you build also liposomes up in the stomach, and the intestine can take them up. But the surface area through a capsule is only like this small. And then it's also your stomach has to mix up the substances. So what we are trying to do is pre-formulate liposomes. So before you take them, formulate them for yourself. Because normally liposomes for a long time without stabilization are not that stable, even in the small size. In bigger sizes, no problem. So you have I would say noodle water. You put on oils, you see the small fat droplets running around. They will, after some time, they will just stick together and build a big fat droplet, because energy-wise, this maybe gets too much in physics, but energy-wise, this is a very easy thing for them to do. And they like to be bigger than smaller, because the energy which is implied on a small structure is much higher. So they want to release this energy and get bigger. And this is what we are also creating. So when you have a pre-formulated liposomal formulation, normally they tend to increase in size. And then the uptake and also the surface area you will cover is not that high anymore.
I remember Dr. Christopher Shea talking about this as well, that not all liposomal formulas are the same. Many are just saying, let's throw fat at them, put them in there, shake them up, and that's kind of it, and call it liposomal and hope it delivers. But it's really creating larger pieces of liposomes or fats.